Hey, everybody, I'm super pumped for a special case study testimonial from none other than the man, the myth, and the legend that you guys have maybe seen getting excited in some of our social media videos, who is also one of our head coaches and trainers now within our remote program, Alec Burnett. So, Alec, if you want to tell everyone at the time we started working together, what level were you at? Where were you at school? Like, what was going on?
Yeah, so at the time I was playing I was in between my fifth and sixth year of college, so my third and fourth year athletically. So I was at Wagner College, Division I in the Northeast Conference in New York City. Um, and I had just finished up my fifth year, pretty down year for me, and was getting ready to go out to the Northwoods, which is a collegiate summer league, to basically give myself an opportunity to flush what had happened in my fifth year. And so I was coming out to throw a bullpen before I left when I was at home. Um, and yeah, that's kind of how we got going. So at the time, I think I was 23.
Yeah. And so, for those of you guys watching that don't know anything about us, or maybe do, Alec and I worked together briefly many, many years ago in a travel organization. When I think, were you a freshman or sophomore in high school?
No,
Junior? What were
shoot,
you?
what class are you in when you're 16, 15, 16?
Probably sophomore.
Okay. Then it would have been like sophomore, junior year because I was with that organization for 2 years.
Yeah. So we're talking. This was 6, 7 years before we met back up, and at the time, um, anything that we do now was non-existent. So it was completely different, and we had kept in very loose contact at best. And then through a mutual friend of yours that also works with us, Zach, he had told you, "Hey, come out and see what we're up to." You just kind of threw a bullpen. It was very low key. And where was your velocity at after that season going into summer ball?
Yeah, so originally just like pretty much stock numbers for me. I was anywhere from 87 to 90 on any given day. Maybe flash 91. But at the time when I came out, I was to throw that bullpen with not even with you. You were kind of just a fly on the wall at the time. Um, I was like 83 to 85 that day and not too sure what was going on. I was getting real frustrated. And you had been watching, and so you came up and said, "I know what's going on," and put your hand out. So instinctively, as a player, I put the ball in your hand, and then you turned around and walked away. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Um, but I can go into more of that story right there if you want me to, on some of the
Well,
things that we talked about.
sure. So, I mean, up to that point, like you're trying to, you said flush what was going on that previous season. You're going into, essentially your last attempt and your last hurrah from a summer ball standpoint, going into your last year of college ball. So, what's going through your mind leading up to that point? And then, yeah, what happened when I took the ball away? Because I actually don't remember taking the ball away, but
Yeah, so where my head was, I knew that this was um, the last summer and last spring that I was going into that would give me the chance to play pro ball or not. And at the time, I remember telling you that my goal was just to end my career on my terms. So I wasn't totally sold going to pro ball, wasn't totally sold on being done. So I just wanted to have the option when that time came, if I chose to continue. And if not, I wanted to know that I finished my career, not somebody telling me that I had to be done, which is the majority of baseball players. They basically get told, whether directly or indirectly, that they're done. Um, so I just wanted to have the option. And so um, I knew that I had to do something special in these last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months of my career. So when I came in that day throwing 83, 85, not totally sure what was going on because nothing had really changed in my eyes. Um, throwing 83, 85, and it was just a real downer, especially coming off of a bad season. I was just like not in a great headspace because I was just like, here I am about to go into this last ditch effort to see if I can play pro ball, and I'm throwing 83, 85. So when you came and took the ball from me, one, you said you're done for the day. Which I didn't want to hear that because I still felt like I needed to work through some things to feel confident going into summer ball. And you said instead of giving me a response on why, you started posing questions like, "Tell me about your last couple weeks." So I shared that we had just finished up the conference tournament, so there's a bunch of travel there, and that our all of our because our home field was under renovation, so like half of our games were played at a neutral site. So like there was a bunch of travel every single weekend. So whole bunch of travel, and then when the season finished up, didn't go well for the team and didn't go well for me. Um, so that was uh, a little frustrating. And then pack up my stuff at the apartment in New York and drive like 12 and a half hours home. And then I'd also shared that at the time, I was planning on coming home and working for the summer instead of going to play ball. But once my season had gone so poorly, I was like, I couldn't justify making a transfer move and pursuing um, a better situation for myself. And I couldn't justify walking away and that be my fifth year, that be one of the years of ball that I had played. So I was like, I gotta go make some good out of these decisions that I've made. And so then you were asking me, how's your food, water, sleep? And I'm like, well, food and water, I do a really good job of. Sleep, I'm like uh 5, 6 hours. At the time, I wasn't sleeping well, wasn't totally sure why. But I was like 5, 6 hours, and I felt that I functioned well on that. And you're like, all right, how's your lifting and throwing going? I'm like, well, I lift, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week, and I'm throwing every single day. And so we're kind of just going through all the things that we talk about with our guys, which is just a whole bunch of health information and how can we optimize it. And at the time, I wasn't very well versed in it. So you start letting me know that one, we got to get the sleep right. We got to get all the aspects of health in order before we can even think about performing on the mound. So you said, how about for these next 4 days? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go home, spend time with your family. Um, and I don't think I finished that thought when I had said that I was going out to play summer ball and originally I was going to stay at home. My folks were excited for me to go play, but they were sad that they weren't going to be around, or I wasn't going to be around for the summer like they had thought. Um, and they had seen me very little since I had been in New York. So it was just a little sad that I was only going to be home for like 4 days, and then I was going to be off again, and then I'd be home for another 4 days, and I'd go back to school. So it was just all that was just piling up to show you that my health wasn't right. So you encouraged me to go home for 4 days, spend time with family. I was going to get 10 hours of sleep every night. I was going to crush food and water, and then not touch a baseball or a weight for 4 days. And so I said, you want me to show up on night one at the Northwoods as a reliever? I know I'm throwing night one. And then for anyone that's not familiar with the Northwoods, it's a 72 game season played in 70 days. So it's a minor league schedule. So we're playing every single day throughout the week, plus a doubleheader on the weekends. And throughout those 70 days, it's you get like 3 off days. And on those off days, you're getting to do community events. So it's like you're still on the job pretty much. Um, so anyways, I was like, you want me to show up on night one, having not touched a ball, and I'm coming off of a horrible season, and I don't feel prepared. Like I am not in a good physical space or mental space to go out and perform on night one, and you don't want me to touch a baseball. And you were like, yep. And I was like, okay, well, what's gonna happen? Like, am I gonna keep pitching like trash like I have been all season? Like, things can't get worse. At the very worst, I pitch bad, but my health gets better. So I'm like, all right, sounds good. And so I'll give it a shot. So it gave me time to go hang out with my family, which was nice. So I went and spent time with family for 4 days. Slept for 10 hours a night. I did make sure that happened. Um, Food and water like normal. Those were always good. And I didn't touch a ball, didn't touch a weight. And so I'd make the drive out to Wisconsin. And when I got there, this was like this was the night before. And so I went and threw really lightly. The stadium was closed. It's like, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. Then I'm throwing in the dark at a soccer field that's adjacent to the stadium. And so I'm throwing into a fence, just trying to not overload my arm, but also just give myself some confidence knowing that I did touch a ball. And so next day I go out, right back to 88-91, and I shoved. And so it was just like, all right, so now I'm kind of drinking the Kool-Aid. And so that was kind of how we got started, and then how it started to transpire and things started to turn around for me.
Yeah, and how long had you been upper 80s up to 91?
So I had been 88 to 90 basically all my career. So from like senior year of high school, like that's about where I was. It was less likely that I got up to 90 frequently than when I got into college. That started to be a more consistent thing. But basically my entire career, so for 5, 6 years, I was at 88 to 90. And there was one day that I flashed a 92. I'm not totally sure how accurate it was, because um, it wasn't on like a stalker gun. It was on TrackMan, and the boys had informed me that they thought it was a little hot. So maybe it wasn't an actual 92, but I did know for a fact that in this season prior, in my 5th year, I had ran it up to 91.
Gotcha. Okay, so you go into the summer, and I can't remember at that time how much had I given you from a drill standpoint. Because I know, at the end of the summer you came back and worked on a lot of stuff. But other than, and maybe it was just that, the food, the sleep, the water, and
That was
then
it.
okay, and one piece was you had quite the throwing routine. And tell everyone watching what we did with your throwing routine.
Yeah, so that was part two. Part one was get the health in order. Part two was I mentioned to Scott, like, all right, health's in order. Um, like what's next? And so Scott gave me just his 2 cents on what he thought about my throwing routine, which
I'm pretty.
was
I think that I had you text me your routine or write it down
mhm,
or something. And
yeah.
I just this long list, and I was just like, okay. So go ahead.
So one of the things that you had said was just you felt like I threw way too much going into a bullpen setting or game setting. So that was the next conversation we had, and I think I did type out everything for you, and it was a laundry list just because there were a lot of things that I liked to do before I threw. But for me as a reliever, that wasn't great just because I'm putting in a ton of work before the game, and then right before I go in, I'm throwing more, and then I go throw in game. So one of the things that you had said was that one, let's get rid of the weighted balls. And I was fine with that just because I wasn't using them for the velocity aspect of it. I was using them as a tool that I felt helped me with my arm patterning, which was one of the things that I had been working on. And I felt that it helped connect me a bit. Um, so that was how I was using them, wasn't really going all out with them, but it still was adding stress to my load. So um, you encouraged me to I what I remember was that you basically cut my throwing in half in total. So that meant that warming up, I was throwing like half as much, didn't have any weighted balls. And one of the other things we talked about was that you had said, well, you're throwing 7 days a week and have been for months. We need to be mixing in some days where you truly give your arm a break. And I was like, well, that's kind of tough because, like I said, I'm playing in a league where we play 7 days a week. And as a reliever in the Northwoods, it was kind of common practice for relievers to throw, let's just call it numbers. So on day one, I throw, and then day two, I throw. And because I've now thrown back to back, I'm obligated to take a day three off. I can't throw in game that day. but then I could be available on day 4. So it was like 1, 2, 4. Um, and so I was throwing multiple times every 3 days. And so rarely did I get 2 days off. So it was just like, that's just to help paint the picture. And so I was like, well, I can't really take days off because I'm either preparing for that game or I'm preparing for the next day. So I don't like to not throw the day before I throw in a game. I don't like to not throw before a game I'm going to be pitching in later that evening. So it was just like, I don't know how we're going to navigate this. And so there were days where we had scripted out that I was going to take that day off of throwing. And I had to just be comfortable knowing that on those days I might pitch in that game. And Scott kind of gave me the confidence, like, you've been doing this for so long, like your body is well equipped to be able to get hot in the bullpen. But that was totally new to me, having not thrown before the game and then trying to get hot in the bullpen. But I was totally sold on what we were doing as I just kept going through that summer because I kept showing up every single day, 88 to 91, 88 to 91, and carving. So I think I finished that summer with a 1.3 ERA, and had a bunch of saves and threw a bunch of high leverage innings. So um, I was I was fully drinking the Kool-Aid now that I'm having success and the things that we're doing are working. And I hadn't really seen that success in my career prior. And I had worked with several big name organizations that I thought were going to help me. And not to say that they're not great organizations, but I hadn't gotten the results that I had hoped for. So now I'm starting to get results. And it's just totally different than what I've been accustomed to.
Yeah, you told me multiple times you spent a lot of your hard-earned money. You were doing lessons on the side, busting your butt so you could afford to spend thousands of dollars on remote training to still be in the same place you were in high school. And here you are, a really smart guy, really hard worker, and you're stuck in the same place and
Hmm.
got this expensive program and no results to show for it. And so then here, fortunately, we just happened to be in the right place, right time. We had known each other before, where you were able to take some pretty aggressive advice. If I do say so, we don't always give that aggressive advice where we cut your throwing routine in half and do a lot of things that we've talked about. But just having that prior um, relationship and trust, I remember kind of saying, "Hey, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's do it for 4 days. Or let's try it for a week or two." So I was like, "Man, I am just obliterating your routine." I knew I had a little bit of wiggle room, but also I didn't want to completely overwhelm you. And then every time you responded with a text, it's like, "Man, velocity's back. It's feeling good. I'm carving." And then, I mean, you kind of just threw in the towel with the weighted balls for that summer. And then now we're fast forward to the end of the summer. And then do you remember our back and forth about whether or not you should come in?
Well, you had invited me in for the end of the summer, and I was like, well, I'm only home from the summer league before I've got to leave to go to school ball for the fall. I've got 6 days. And so you said, all right, come in for those 6 days. And one thing I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying, which this is kind of from a coaching perspective, but I can also add a little nuance from my perspective at the time as a player. We don't always give that level of aggression to what we're doing, but from my situation, I was in my last go round. Like this was the last chance for me to go pro. So we were a little bit more aggressive with the things that we were trying than we would be with someone that just joined the program and they're in their first year of college or they're still in high school. So one thing that you guys as viewers should keep in the back of your head.
Yeah. So you got 6 days left. If I recall
Yep.
correctly, I kind of had to, I don't know if negotiate's the right word, but like kind of, or pressure you, but kind of say like, hey, let's take advantage of this. Who knows what could happen? Like, let's just kind of do it because you had a lot on your plate. You got to move back to school. You got like, there's just a lot going on. Like summer ends, fall begins. You got to go back out to New York. There's a lot. and I could look back for a back and forth. But if I recall, I think I had to push you a little bit, but then tell me or tell the guys watching or the viewers what happened in those 6 days.
Yeah, so all of my career, I had just struggled with mechanics. I had the tools to get guys out. Always had plus plus off speed. The velo was like not going to overpower you, but it was substantial. It was what I needed at the level that I was playing to get outs. So all I wanted to get out of this was repeatable mechanics because my struggle all my career, you guys can look up my stats if you really want to, was that I walked too many guys. My opponent batting average was never high. I'm talking like high ones or low twos for the majority of my career. So I didn't get hit. I struck a bunch of dudes out. I knew my stuff was good enough to get guys out if I would just put it in the zone. And it's like burned into my brain. I have nightmares about it nowadays of just coaches saying, just throw strikes and you'll be fine and you'll get out if you just throw strikes. And so that kind of advice can only help you so much. And hearing it so much while I'm out on the mound, it's like, actually, dude, I was actually trying to throw balls there. I was trying to give that guy first base. Um, that's sarcasm. But anyways, um, so yeah, it's like that advice never really helped me. I wanted to throw strikes, but I just wasn't. So all I wanted was some mechanical help that was going to give me repeatable mechanics and allow me to be in the zone more. And anything beyond that would be bonus. So for those 6 days, the first 5 days, all we did was movement and mechanic stuff. That week I threw less than I ever had in my life, but we were still making significant improvements mechanically. And that was through the two main drills that helped me the most. And I know it's like different for every guy, just because we take advantage of different drill sets for different guys because they're different priorities for different movement profiles. And so there's a whole bunch of ways that we could individualize it. For me, what helped me the most was the EVs, teaching me to be spine dominant. I'd never before in my life heard anybody coach pitching in that way. Um, and so through EVs, I was able to learn how to generate force from my spine, maintain good posture, um, and that really helped me. And then you and I collaborated to basically come up with a variation of water bags, like ways that I could do water bags that would help me on the mound, so I could be getting mound reps throughout that week, but with a focus on the spine. And so that's that belly button anchored spherical water bag. And so I think you have it on the Instagram, so guys can go find that if they want. But yeah, so it was basically those two drills. I remember doing EVs for at least an hour a day. And most of the time, how long would you say EVs take, guys?
5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it in 5 minutes. So I would do progression one and progression two, just like normal. Get through those. Those are for me. Those were more feel types of throws, and then I would spend the next whatever 55 minutes just doing the progression three, where we add in the mechanical movements that are typical to you with uh, leg lift. And the cool thing was, I was trying to iron out my lower half for years, just because with me being straight over the top, like 12 o'clock release position, it's a whole lot harder to time up, in my opinion, than if you're throwing from sidearm. Like there's a bunch of different sequencing issues that come up if you're out of whack. So I would always try and make adjustments to my lower half, but I only had so many bullets in the tank for a day's throwing session, and it was never enough for me to be able to iron out the movements and mechanics. But with EVs, we can do those all day long and never put any stress on the body. That's why I spent so much time doing those, just because it gave me a time to work on my mechanics and get those to where I was confident in them. And I still got dozens of videos in my phone from that summer of me doing EVs for hours. Um, but yeah, that's how I used them. And then that water bag drill off the mountain was huge. So it was those two things that really helped me. And so we did that for 5 days, just working on movements and mechanics. And then on the sixth day, Scott and I decided let's just do a velo day just to see where I'm at. And there was no risk concern there, just because I already was fully ramped up. But the cool thing was is we had just given my body like 5, 6 days of low intensity work where I didn't throw much at all, and now my body is ready to rock. Mentally, I'm ready to go, and so on the sixth day we go through normal day of EVs, ladder, get some mound reps.
I'm
But
gonna pause you. Two things. Number one, I want to hear when you first saw the EV drills
oh
and
yeah.
you saw me with my shoes and socks off. What was that like? And then I'll let you get to that. And then so just tell me that, and then I want to give context for that day, what was going on in my head. So go ahead and
Okay. So when I first I would say re-met Scott, because up until that point we had just been like working together loosely since I was like 16. But when we basically met again, I was just like, dude, this guy's a hippie. And then there was one day you handed me a journal and I was like, you want me to write about my thoughts and feelings of my throwing sessions? And you were like, yep. And I'm like, all right, well, I've been pitching like trash, so I don't really have any ground to stand on. So might as well try it. And it ended up helping me a ton. The EVs, I thought those were just weird, different. But I gave them a go, and then they started to really help me, and I really enjoyed them. So yeah, just a whole bunch of different stuff that we do at HV that I just had never seen before. So at first I was just like hippie. I guess it's all weird stuff. But did that answer your question? Or was there
yes,
a
because
part two to that?
I always like to hear what guys think about things when they see the videos or see me in person. And they're like, why doesn't he have shoes and socks on? He's
Oh, shoes and socks. Yeah, so I came in and I was working out my shoes and socks, see you with no shoes and socks. And I think I just asked you why you were doing that, and we had a conversation about it, and so I was like, all right, whatever, I'll try it. And I tried it, and then for the rest of the I think I tried that on day one, and then from the rest of the time I was going barefoot all the time. Actually gave me a lot more feel in the ground. Um, and just because like when I'm describing it to guys we're working with, it's just like, well, the reason we're going no shoes and socks is, think about it this way: if I give you a baseball and asked you to throw it, but I put an oven mitt on your hand, like it's that level of like eliminating feel that our shoes do for us. So it really helped me feel the ground and work through that. But yeah, still hippie.
I love the oven mat. I might have to use that. So we're going into, like you said, 6 days of you basically just now being introduced to these brand new drills that when I knew you before, I hadn't ever thought of, had never seen. And then just in the last couple of years, had kind of slowly, gradually, progressively come up with these, mastered these, kind of tweaked those things. And so you got to be introduced to them. We go into the velo day just to kind of see where you're at. And in the back of my head, I'm trying to stay indifferent or kind of in the middle. I don't want to get too excited and put pressure on you or expectations or put out vibes of like, oh, he's going to throw 100 miles per hour or he's going to throw 81 and I'm worried. But like, I just have no idea. So I'm trying not to think about it in my head. And, everyone's getting excited because, we got some younger guys in there and they're like, oh, wonder what he's going to throw. He's been in here. He's a D1 guy. And, they've got aspirations of playing college ball. And so I'm like, okay, just go in, just normal, just no expectations. I'm gonna let you guys do whatever. And I see you're getting pumped because it's a velo day, and everyone gets pumped on a velo day. You're super serious. I'm just like, I'm just gonna set up the equipment, set up the guns, set up the move our station, and get the computer going. And I'm just gonna be completely just moot, just right down the middle. Because I have no idea what's going to happen because we didn't have a gun on you. I saw you 83, 85. And then I heard you were 88 to 91. But usually I go into a velo day for context knowing if he's a 91 guy indoors without a catcher, without a batter, you're typically going to see a 2 to 6 mile per hour difference lower. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if he's up to 91 in the Northwoods feeling great, I might see 89, I might see 85. So I'm like, that's where my expectations are if I'm just going to be more realistic about it or scientific about it. That's what we tend to see. So that was my context. And then go ahead and tell them what happened.
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I remember from that day was that I was trusting you to put me in the position to succeed. And there was just one thing I just didn't agree with, but I gave you the latitude and trusted you on this, which was on that day, I was subbing out half the throws I would typically make because we kind of met in the middle. I like to throw a lot. So what you and I had agreed on was that I was going to go through EVs, then I was going to go through ladder and then some mound work. But every like 5 throws, I think it was 5 water bag, then 3 throws, like with a baseball. And so I was just like, by the time I get to the mound, I will only have thrown a baseball, I don't know, 20 times. And normally I'll get through 20 throws before I'm even outside even outside 90 feet. So I was just like, and normally I would on a velo day or in game day, I would like actually stretch it out. I wouldn't go full long toss, but I'd stretch it out to 210, 220 just to get some air under the ball. So that day I did a whole bunch of water bag in substitution for throws. And so I was like, my arm is not going to be ready to go 100% once I get to the mound. Um, but I was like, whatever, I'll try it. Like, this is why I'm here. I'm here to give this stuff a go and see what Scott can do. And so I go to the mound and very first throw, I'm just trying to nail all the movements that we've been working on. And then also just start ramping up. And so in my eyes, I was throwing on that first one, I don't know, 80%. I wasn't really letting it eat yet. And first number that pops up was like 87. And I was like, dude, I barely threw that. Like I was barely trying there. I was like, I think I'm going to PR today. And from my perspective, my goal was just hit 92. Like all summer, I was 88 to 91. There were several outings where I was in just 90, 91, but I was like, why can't I get that extra mile an hour to get to my old PR? So,
Meanwhile, I'm thinking like 89, maybe he gets a 90. That's what I'm thinking.
and so my second throw, I was like, all right, I'm going to nail the movements. I'm just going to ramp it up to like um, that 90, 95%. And I hit 89.9. And I'm like, okay, Scott, I'm ready. Like we might as well just go now because like I feel like I'm not fully going yet. Like I'm not full max effort and I'm already touching 90. So I was like, all right, let's just go. Screw it. I'm ready enough. And so I think I opened first throw. I mean, we've got the data still. That's one thing that I love that we do. Like we keep so much data, not so much that we want to like inundate ourselves with it, but just because it's nice to have when we need it. So like we could pull that spreadsheet up right now, and I'm pretty certain my memory is correct that my first throw was 90.9, and I'm like, I'm so PRing today. And so old PR 92. That day I averaged 92.5, I think. So I was sitting a PR, and then ran it up to, I think it was 93.6. So it was that first 93 that I threw, was just electric. That video we've posted quite a few times, but that if the first one that the first 93 that I hit was a 93.4, and I lost my mind. And it was cool because I tell this aspect of the story too because it's good perspective. When the other guys saw 93 pop up on the board, they saw 93. What I saw was I could play pro ball. And that was just huge to me because I knew that my off speed was plus stuff. I got guys out like I've got swing and miss stuff. All I need is just a few more mile an hour to be a formidable option for anyone. So yeah, ran it up to 93.6 that day at full distance, and it was sweet.
That's awesome. So then you're on your way. You go into your last year, your 18th year of college baseball,
Wait,
and
on.
then
Let me explain why I had 18 years of college baseball. My freshman year, I redshirted just because one, for a lot of us that go to 4-year schools, I mean, at the time, JUCO wasn't a like a highly sought after option, and I can't even say that I actually knew what JUCO was all about. I like it wasn't as big of an option or a route that guys take as it is now. Now it's a great option for guys, but at the time. To be honest with you, we just thought like, oh, that's just where the guys go that couldn't make grades. Like that was what was thought of JUCO. So for a lot of us that go to 4-year schools, it doesn't matter if you're a high school stud or not, you're gonna sit the bench. Like you're gonna sit around and wait until um, older guys ahead of you show multiple times that they're not getting the job done, and then you get a chance. And if you throw well, then maybe you get a second chance. If you don't throw well, then well, now you're waiting for another rotation of 15, 16 guys. Um, and then maybe you get another shot. But so that freshman year, I just wasn't good enough. And I was also dealing with a posterior shoulder issue. So it just meant that I didn't get to throw a whole lot throughout the fall and early winter. So they didn't see me throw enough to be confident that burning a year of eligibility was an intelligent move. So at the time, I was devastated that I got redshirted, but now I'm very grateful for it because it gave me the opportunity to have my fifth year. And I would much rather have my fifth year than my freshman year just because I was in such a better place. And then sophomore year was COVID. So I got that year back. So um, yeah, my first year of eligibility was used as a junior. But yeah, I just felt like that was important information to know why I had 18 years of college baseball and why I was 6 years older than freshmen in my class my last year.
that's hilarious. Yeah. So then you go into your last year, and I don't know how much context you want to give. We could give the cliff notes, or you can go into a little more detail on how that year went and the accolades you got, and then what happened that next summer as well.
Yeah, so going into my sixth year, just came off a really good summer ball season, and then just showed myself that I can run it up to 93. And so Scott and I kept working throughout that season, um, and I was consistently throwing strikes, getting outs, and getting back to enjoying baseball. And that's a whole nother route we could talk about, which was the mental side of baseball actually absolutely ran me through the ringer that fifth year just because I was like, I'm supposed to be the guy, um, and I'm not getting it done. Like I can't be trusted out here. So when I stepped on the mound my sixth year, I was just like, well, here's what I'm not going to let happen. I am not going to allow myself to go into that mental space that I was in last year because this is my last year. Like I may never play baseball again, so I don't want this year to come down to me being a head case, um, and not enjoying myself. I would have much rather thrown a 6 ERA and had a blast than be miserable and not be someone that could be trusted on the team. So I was just like, every time I took the mound, all I would say to myself was, I'm just gonna have fun. And whatever happens, happens. And up until that point in my career, I had never truly been able to um, not stress about outcomes. Um, like the preparation hadn't really changed. I've always been a really good prepper for throwing in game, but I just was like, oh, I'm done. I'm done worrying about the outcomes. Whatever happens, happens, and I'm just gonna have a blast and enjoy myself for this last year. So um, went out and got to pitch against North Carolina, Texas A&M in the opening 2 weekends, and did well against them, and got some first rounders out. So that was cool. But yeah, throughout that season, I threw, I think it was a two flat ERA, threw a two ERA, led the conference in saves. Um, and my walk numbers were down. I was striking out a bunch of dudes. And then I was a first teamer in the NEC and was recognized as a top 50 reliever in all of D1 baseball. And that's just super cool to me just because I'll always have that, and it just showed me what I was capable of. And it was what I always knew I could do. I just hadn't done yet. So it was an amazing sixth year. Like, couldn't have gone out on a better note. Was able to be trusted by my team, and that was the biggest thing for me, was just like getting to show my teammates what I was capable of, because for only being there for 2 years, I didn't show them jack in the first year. So they didn't really know what I could do, and then got an opportunity in the sixth year to show them what I could. And so it was totally different, and it was an awesome way to go out. And then in that next summer, got a call with the opportunity to go play pro ball in the American Association, which is indie ball. And so it was just cool to me because I'll always have that contract that I could have gone and played, and ultimately I chose not to. I was getting married that summer, and I was happy with the life that I had, and decided that I wasn't um, wanting to sign myself up for a 7, 8, 9 year journey in the lower levels of baseball before there was even a chance to make it to the MLB. So I was just comfortable with where I was at, proud of what I had achieved, and kind of ready to move on. So ultimately, I chose to turn it down and jump into baseball on the other side of things.
Yeah, an unforgettable last year, to say the least, that not a lot of guys get to experience. And that's why it's been so awesome this past summer to have you on board, 7, 8 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then hopping on full time now through the last handful of months, and being able to help guys both in person and then remotely. And just, we've got so many guys. So at this point right now, they're recording, every one of our instructors has experience with me in the past, and then multiple years of experience with what we're doing. So just the weapons that we're able to bring, and then your pedigree with your playing level, your experience, opportunity to play pro ball. It's just been awesome to have you, and then get to be a fly on the wall a little bit with your experience and your success. So it's been awesome. So for those that are watching and they're still on the fence, they're not sure if HV is the way to go for them. They're not sure if um, they can make this remote thing work, or they're just like uncertain about what we do. If your story alone has not convinced them, what would you tell those people that are on the fence about doing what we do?
Well, I'd say that like I said, I've paid a ton of money and given up a lot of time to work with various pitching development organizations. And what I got out of those um, pales in comparison to what I got out of 6 days working with HV and with Scott. So, what I'd tell you is, in my experience, this was the best opportunity that I got to train, and it happened in the shortest amount of time. So it's just different. What we do is different, and you got to try it.
And if people want to reach out to you, send you a DM, or follow you as a trainer now, where can they follow you?
It is I think it's at healthy velo underscore Alec. And that's on Instagram. So yeah, shoot me a DM if you want to just talk baseball. We can talk baseball. If you want to see what the program's about, you can reach out to me and we can talk about it. But yeah.
Awesome. Love it. So if you are watching and you're somewhere between low 80s and low 90s, or you've just been stuck 6 months, so over 6 years like Alec, and you're curious if you're a good fit for our program and you want to see what it's like, you can hop on a call with us. It's free. If you're watching this somewhere on the internet, there should be, especially if it's on YouTube, there should be a link below where you can click to hop on a call with us, and it's at no cost to just see if it's a good fit. We'll tell you about the program, what it's like, because like Alec said, it is different. If you see the videos, shoes and socks are off. A lot of our guys train just differently. The drills are different. And like Alec said, it's the best training and the best results in a quick period of time. So we actually have a velocity guarantee we can tell you about on average through the course of the year. When guys first start working with us, the average velocity gain is 4 miles per hour. It's actually a little bit above that. And a lot of our guys see that in as little as 3 months, even less. We have guys that do it within the first month. So if you're curious, you can go ahead and click that link, schedule a call with us, and we will see you on that call. And otherwise, make sure you're following us on all the social medias and on YouTube. And we can't wait to see you on the next video.